Bat music.
He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bat Minute Returns, the podcast where we punch our screens in frustration at Tim Burton's 1992 Batman sequel, Batman Returns, 1 minute at a time. It's actually a pretty good movie. We don't get that frustrated with it. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And I am your other host, John Parker. I've been playing you stinking viewers all this time.
Viewers? I think who's getting played now, John?
Well, actually, you want to know why? You want to know why that came to mind? Because I found out we have a couple of people who listen on YouTube, which confuses me.
Oh, right. Well, okay, fair enough.
I don't know why on earth you would, but we do, and they have got in touch with me specifically to go, no, I do listen to it on YouTube. Stop making fun of YouTube.
Well, of course, the glorious YouTube followers that we have. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Yes, and we're also joined here today by Groundhog Minuter and Spinal Tapper, Sean German.
Hello.
And we're also joined as well by Christmas and T-Rex enthusiast, Tabitha Carlisle. I thought actually this might be a nice treat for you, Tabitha, because we're recording just outside the Christmas period. But like, by getting to watch this movie and talk about it, it's kind of extending it a little bit, because it is a Christmas movie, technically. So
I know. And just a little peek behind the curtain, I still haven't taken my Christmas tree down, and we're recording this on January 19th.
If I had it my own way, I would leave that tree up half the year.
I think we're going to take it down today, but I keep turning the lights on every night because I'm like, if it's in the house, I'm going to keep enjoying the lights. So
Yeah.
Also, as well, 'cause I know you on Mean Girls Minute, you talked quite at length about like the inflatable T-Rex outfit that you have.
Yes.
But that also reminds me, because classically in the Batcave, Batman has his giant T-Rex thing as well. So if you ever put it into retirement, you could like make it like a little office for yourself and have that like on a mannequin or something as a kind of little Batman tribute as well. It's like, oh, it's kind of like that. Could be like a big giant coin next to it. There you go. You're good to go.
It's perfect. Perfect.
But yeah, today we're here to talk about minute 86 of Batman Returns, which begins with the carnage continuing, and it ends with Batman doing a sort of like more manual Elvis impersonation than most people would attempt. But yeah, so we still got we're mid this set piece of the Batmobile just zooming around and just completely destroying everything. But and Batmobile also tearing apart the inside of the Batmobile too, trying to discover the problem.
Yeah, I've got a problem with that I'm going to get to. I don't like it. I'll say why in a bit. But first off, the police force of Gotham. Why do they exist? What do they do? They're not helping. They're not doing anything.
They are under the instruction of Commissioner Gordon here, so they guess they're just like, just follow him. I can see where he goes.
Well, I imagine at one point they were, just the tops, the Gotham's finest. But with Batman around, their crime fighting skills have atrophied. They haven't had much to do with Batman cleaning up the streets, and now suddenly everything's going haywire. And they're like, "Hey, remember, we used to do police work. Do you remember?" And they're like, "No, I don't remember how to do that." I think that's what's going on.
So they've got to relearn their way. This sounds like a movie in itself. This is great.
Yeah.
But this is like them following the Batmobile is basically like when Sideshow Bob stole that the Wright brothers plane, and then the police were kind of chasing them by just kind of walking along, trying to grab it, but like just not really doing anything. But this is they've been like, why didn't you set up some roadblocks or do something? But they're like, no, we just go behind him. Clearly we can't catch up to him because this is like a souped up mega car.
Maybe some of the police department is in the pocket of Max Shrek and the Penguin. So they can't really try too hard. You know, they got to kind of look like they're doing their job, but, you know, they can't really try too hard to stop him.
I could see that definitely being part of it. I think just because it's Tim Burton, he finds that kind of thing boring, right? That's not Burton's bag.
Mm-hmm.
If that was in any other Batman, that's usually an important part of it, isn't it? Like, well, in Nolan as well, especially, you know, the cops are on the take and things like this.
Yeah.
I think Burton just feels like,
So we're having to do a lot of inferring that Max Shrek is behind a lot of the puppet strings of like, well, how did the Red Triangle Gang get all this artillery all of a sudden? Oh, it's probably Max Shrek. And how did they get the instructions to the Batmobile? Probably Max Shrek. It could have helped if would have made him more nefarious as well. Not that he's not already incredibly nefarious to the audience, but like just to see that, yeah, this guy he's the real power behind the throne here. Like, yeah, I guess maybe they wanted to make it just look more like, oh, the Penguin's the guy we're selling, like not just in terms of him being sold to the public of Gotham, but to the people of the world. It's like, this guy is the villain, you know. Where we emphasize the fact that the Max Shrek was actually behind. He was the major enabler of everything. We just had scenes of him going like, yep, pay for that, and making it very, very, you know, apparent that he is the guy funding all of this.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of would have felt it would have been outshining the Penguin a little bit, also because he's having to share the screen time with Catwoman as well, who also did kind of, you know, the two of them are kind of battling it out so much that Batman kind of gets lost in the ether in the movie.
Mm-hmm. So it's okay to drive over down power lines, like you won't get hurt.
Yes. No, you're not supposed to. Yeah, I had that note as well. So last minute we saw one of the cars that gets pushed away by the Batmobile barreling through traffic, knocks over a hydrant. The hydrant gushes, as they do in movies, and it knocks down. It looks like I don't know if it's a transformer or something, but wires, they fall down. Yeah, live electrical wires in water is a dangerous combination that I think they tell you specifically, do not drive over. Yeah.
Right. No. And people are walking around in that same area, like second 2. You could see people walking around. There's like a big pool of water. There's a down wire. The cars are driving over. People are just walking through the puddle. It's a very dangerous situation.
Out of here.
Yeah.
But I did actually. Yeah. That's the thing. I'm not, you know, the most techie guy. So when I saw that thing, the power line thing, I was like, oh, is that called? That's called a transformer, right? Am I correct in that, or?
That was my guess.
I mean, there is a thing called a transformer.
Yeah. So that just made me think then, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if like a transformer just showed up at this point? But then I was thinking like, no, that current Justice League, a transformer probably would have shown up at this point. Like they would have been like, oh yeah, big CGI robot just appears out of nowhere to take out the Batmobile. It's like, yeah, probably now that I know that that's a thing that could happen. It's not that good an idea actually to just have a transformer show.
Well, no, if the Batmobile itself just said, "I'm tired of this. I see the way you treat Alfred. I'm putting my tire down. No more." Just kicks Batman out, transforms into a hero, and saves the day.
Oh, there you go.
The Penguin then comes out with, as we brought up last minute, actually, one of his best lines, and one that I intend to work into more conversation. Obviously, I'd have to edit it slightly, but, you know, you got to admit, I played this stinking city like a harp from hell. What a line. That's like a poem.
Yeah, the Penguin, he knows the power of alliteration, much like the Penguin's pizza planners guys did. And of course, a bit like us writing the outros for Batman. It's like, oh, alliteration. People love that.
Yes.
So you can pretend everything's connected there. The alliteration really is because we were planning to bring up that theme park all along.
It's been one long setup.
That's a long tribute to the harp from hell line. It's like, oh yeah, that's like everyone's favorite line too. Although that is the thing, like it was an instant classic. I can almost remember like when I first saw this movie, being like, oh, that's a good line.
It was the Hakuna Matata of 1992.
What a wonderful phrase.
And
harp from hell.
And of course, Batman has had the foresight to start recording this interaction or this feed that's coming over from Pengie. So he'll have some dirt that perhaps he can use later.
Yeah.
That I mean, that's quite advanced technology because I mean, there's no point trying to pretend that we don't know what's going to happen, right? Yeah, he's recording, as you say. He's recording the audio. But, like, that is a CD player in a car that he can record on. That's amazing. I couldn't write to disc for many years after this.
Well, and that he travels with, he's got a spindle of blank CDs ready to record at any moment.
Oh my God. Remember when you had to have that on your desk at all times?
Yeah.
Your spindle of blank CDs ready to go.
I still have those. I haven't used them in years, but I still have them.
What is more amazing, that he had the foresight and the ability to record, to burn onto a CD in his car, or that he can punch through the floor of his vehicle?
Right, that is what I was alluding to when I said I don't like something. This vehicle is supposed to be an impenetrable tank. You're not supposed to be able to kick the bloody floor off, like just batter it out. Like,
that's the thing as well. Is he kicking it, or is he just punching it?
I think he's just punching it.
Yeah, I think punching.
Oh, actually,
he's
no,
like
he is
leaning
punching
over,
it. You're right, yeah, which is even more bizarre.
Well, no, because there must be an escape hatch. Because what happens if the Batmobile flips over?
Oh.
But at the same time, if it flips over and it's got that on the bottom, isn't it then vulnerable?
The weak underbelly.
That's the weak spot. That's the glowing spot. You attack the boss.
Well, there's something later that Batman like tears with his hand that you're like, shouldn't that be much stronger than that? Well, but he knows, because he was watching as Alfred built the Batmobile, so he knows where the pressure point or whatever, like the exact right spot to hit it, I guess.
Yeah. If you don't employ professionals to build your rocket tank, what do you expect? It's going to be shoddy. He's an old man.
I mean, like afterwards though, he's just like, I gotta make sure to like deduct points from Alfred's pay for being so shoddy with the bottom of the Batmobile. It's like, I saved my life, but Alfred, what if the car flipped over? And I had a
I wonder, before he gets, like, how does he know where to punch? Because we see there's like this foreign object locator.
Oh yeah, yes, the Batmobile Ed Norton virus scan kicks in. Norton virus scan.
I'm wondering, like, could he have run that before he killed all those people? And knocked their cars off the road, like. It seemed like he went, rather than recording the Penguin and slipping in the disc, maybe he should have been running the virus scan sooner.
Maybe like where it's like maybe the disc wasn't him recording the Penguin. Maybe that was him getting out like his crack disc to open up the virus, the antivirus.
That's what he's actually been
like. There's actually like a 30-minute extended cut of him like going through like the user agreements and like clicking, ticking all the boxes.
Oh, now I've got to download the updates, and it's 92, so it's over. Yeah. It's dial-up speed.
Got to make an account.
I do love though the old school computer, because they had that vision of computers in the 80s where everything's black screen with kind of turquoise, light blue, greeny writing on it. It's like that's what computers look like. That's what they'll always look like. You'll never get a computer that's not a black screen with that color writing on it. No matter, we can think futuristically ahead to like this guy having a portable disc CD burner in his car. We couldn't think like maybe his computer will just look like, like writing will come up like on a piece of paper, like with a normal life. But no, it's gonna be black screen, green writing. That's the way you go with that.
There you go. Yeah. Well, and the location on the screen, it doesn't seem like it's in the spot where he reaches. Like, it looks like it's more forward. Maybe it's like under his feet, like under the brake and the accelerator pedals. But when he reaches down, he's like reaching straight down under his seat when we see him kind of reaching and grabbing at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't think this thing is accurate.
Doesn't make any sense.
There may be elements of this film that are not entirely realistic.
What? No.
Yeah.
How dare you say that?
Like, by taking that off the underside of the vehicle and not actually destroying it, would it really stop the vehicle? So it doesn't have to make sense.
Well, in the draft scripts, he does break it. At this point, you see him snap it. But that, yeah.
Well, it's a ball, so it's like perfectly set up where he should like squeeze it in his fist and it shatters. It's like just like like this palm-sized orb. So like the setup's there, and then he doesn't do it.
Although, actually, at this moment, though, the Batman discovering the... Although the one thing that actually bugs me about it as well, and it's a really minor nitpick, is that when we saw this thing go in, it was upright because it was Dougie Jones putting it in. And he seemed to be like very carefully placing it in. And now it's like, well, no, because it's on the underside. So surely the shot should have been him like on his back and one of those like little things mechanics have, putting it in that way. Because like, well, yeah, that'd be a really awkward camera shot. So just have him look at like he's just putting it down through the entire body of the Batmobile, and then would have to flip it over and then stick it underneath and stuff, which would be much, much more awkward. But anyway, that's a minor quibble. But although you've been talking about the other drafts, John, we're beginning to come across one of the major differences and one of the most notorious things that would come out of the Dan Waters original draft. Because at this point, Batman doesn't get this thing off in the original draft by himself. He manages to pull in to a garage, which is run by a character who we currently will know as the Kid. It's supposed to be a young man in sort of dirty overalls who's just like a teenage car mechanic, and they instantly get the Batmobile up on a kind of like little gurney thing, just managing to kind of suspend it so it's flipped up a little bit, and then Batman jumps out and the guy's like, oh my god. Apparently he's actually reading the real life adventures of Batman as well, which is like a nice little nod. Also a thing that pops up coincidentally enough in Into the Spider-Verse, where Miles Morales is reading the real life adventures of Spider-Man as well, but when he encounters Spider-Man.
I like that because it fits the theme that they cut out of this movie, with all the merchandising of Batman in Gotham. Like he's become a famous figure, which makes sense. He would do, surely. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And of course the kid's completely starstruck, and then Batman starts explaining quickly explaining the situation. Then it's like, right, get to work, and the kid helps him get this off the car.
Wait, the kid? Prince.
But yeah, in classic Dan Waters draft style, though, there's a bit of dialogue with the kid as he's working on it, with him saying, oh man, this car is a religion, and it's not even an import. I'm getting into the whole crime-fighting arena myself. So far, it's just been a couple of shoplifters and a drunk driver. There's only so much I can do on my bike, but I'm a little shaky in the whole bat, cat, penguin thing, don't you know? But, what? I gotta be a goat boy? I gotta put on a cowbell and shout moo before I bust up guys? Whoa, Batman, you can't be serious with these lame-ass shocks. Fine automobile like this. You must got stock in a company. Here, let me set you up. And then just keeps going like that eventually. But it kind of paints the kid as being kind of a motor mouth wise ass who is
I know. Next thing you know, you see him like shooting out of the top of the Batmobile or something. Like Batman just ejects him. Like, oh man.
Of course, the kid potentially setting up a character who would appear later movies, and of course in the infamous film Batman and Goat Boy, which is down the line.
Starring Jim Brewer. Right.
But no, we got a lot more of the kid in the next minute. But I think people haven't figured out who the kid was supposed to be at this point. You may be in for a shock in the next minute.
But how do they get the Batmobile into the garage if it's being remotely controlled?
I think it's about like they're
by Oswald.
Things like they're kind of like the connection's not great, so it's sort of like you can kind of control it a little bit and stuff. Reading it as a draft, again, it is a first draft. You are kind of like, I don't know if this makes a lot of sense, but literally driving the Batmobile and immediately getting up in a sort of like a thing to suspend it midair and stuff while it's still going. It's like, I'm pretty sure the thing would just bust through everything, kill that kid, and then drive out through the brick wall on the other side. But
the connection would be bad. I mean, it's the 90s. If it's some kind of internet-based thing, there's going to be lag. Every game I played was lag.
Okay, I was just going to say how much I really enjoy Batman's bat chin, double chin all the time in in these car shots. Just the way he's always looking down and this cowl like pushes up. I really noticed it last minute, but he just really gets some nice double chin going.
It looks uncomfortable, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's very sexy Batman in these scenes. I tell you.
Well, I bring this up almost every episode. That cowl might be tight. It's doing wonders for his lips. That pout is unbeatable.
It's true.
Could the double chin, the bat chin, beat out the pout though? That's the thing. Now it's like, No, actually, we might as well use it as a little segue, Tabitha, because again, you're talking about the sexiness of the bat chin and the bat pout and whatnot. But I don't even listen to the first season of the show, but we had a recurring question for all the guests who were on that season about whether, I was under the impression growing up that Jack Nicholson was regarded as a very sexy man, and then was stunned to find throughout the entirety of the show that most people nowadays, no, they don't regard him in that way. So I ask you, have you ever found Jack Nicholson sexy? Or
no, I don't regard him in that way.
Oh my
God, thank God.
No, I've heard you guys ask that before, and I went back and even looked at pictures of him when he was younger, because I'm like, no, I've never thought of him that way. And I looked at pictures when he was younger, and I was like, no, I still don't think that he was ever really good looking. And so no, not me.
Oh man,
Excellent.
Poor Jack. Well, what about Chris Walken then? How does he fare?
No.
Walken's
I think
handsome,
he's dreamy.
Really? No.
Even when he dances, he's he's a mighty fine dancer.
Oh yeah. Look, I imagine Walken would be kind of like, I'm getting lost in his eyes, and then suddenly it would turn from being romantic into he's kind of hypnotizing you in some way. He's always got that perpetually sinister edge.
As Batman fumbles for this device here, the Penguin spies a helpless old lady who he intends to run down, and she just freezes like a deer or a rabbit or something, which is... I understand, okay, shock, but she's got lots of time to move. This just made me think of Austin Powers.
I wonder. Yeah, there was a video that's just happened recently in real life. There's a video of it got caught on security camera of a car going off the road and running down people on the sidewalk. And yeah, they're all running. They're on the sidewalk, but they're running parallel to the direction of the road. And it's like, well, yeah, if you just run perpendicular, don't, you're not going to outrun the car. If you keep running that way, you're relying on your speed. Change direction so they can't hit you. But yeah, and that people are not smart. But yeah, this is it's like 10 seconds, at least in movie time. I don't know how, sometimes movie time is not the same as reality, but yeah, it's like 10 seconds between when she steps out into the road and everyone else is gone. Everyone else gets out of there, and then she's just stuck like a deer in headlights. And she's a very awkward, I guess maybe that's the look you give when you've just almost been run down by the Batman. She looks...
You should at least try and blame Batman, though. Just start shouting at him like you see people in the street. What are you doing? Watch it, I'm crossing here.
Slap the hood of the Batmobile.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it was actually Dustin Hoffman. Walk in here.
Walk in here. Or Christopher Walken.
I'm
walking
here. That'd be like his extra insurance is Max Shrek steps out in front of the Batmobile. He's like, look, everyone, Batman just tried to kill me.
That would actually be a good point.
Yeah, I like that.
The thing is about this helpless old lady, I can't track her down. I don't know who she is.
Right. Thank God you said that. I'm not going to lie. I didn't spend hours. I spent about half an hour looking for this woman and couldn't find her.
Yeah. The thing is, because she gets a proper close-up, so you think that's enough. You're featured enough extra to be like, you get... There's people in that IMDb list whose faces you don't even see in the movie who get friggin' credits.
Even the wiki didn't have her on, and that wiki's got everything.
Yeah, so she has become like in The Last Crusade, that library guy that the Indiana Jones boys couldn't place, who was I think it turned up that he was actually in Batman '89. He was part of the gangsters at the table with the... when the Joker showed up to talk to them and stuff. This woman is now how can we not find out who she is? This is crazy.
My question is, do we know that this is actually a woman playing this woman, or could this be a man playing this woman? Because there's a wig and lots of makeup. She has very manly features, I think.
No, I can see that.
I could just see it. I could see it be a man playing this part.
That would explain why we can't find any information on them. It could be like one of the crew.
Yeah, like a stunt person in case the car accidentally hit them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but then you probably wouldn't do a close.
Probably not.
The close-up reminds me of that. You mention it. If you've seen clips or pictures of Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York City, I don't know what it was for. It was some kind of skit or prank or something, but there's pictures where he's a man, but he was dressed up as a woman. And this kind of the close-up kind of looks like Rudy Giuliani. I think that might be who this is here.
And then he's like, "Oh, don't ever mention I was in that movie." Yeah. But it would kind of work too, because like it was the fact that it's all about like a mayoral campaign and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, infamously the mayor of New York."
Well, as a drag fan, I approve.
Yes, there we go. Okay, very good.
I do remember during Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin's commentary in this, they were like, "Oh, it wouldn't be something that was Aunt Harriet from the '60s show." The thing is, that could have been. I'm not too sure if Aunt Harriet would have still been like the actress who played her would have been alive in '92, but that would have been nice if actually they had got her in for this part.
Yeah,
but
that's not something that's another thing Tim Burton would have no interest in, I'm sure.
Yeah. What do you think of though? Because it's Aunt Harriet kind of almost could have added like a kind of Addams Family element to the whole like weird, creepy Gothic house. But then, like, it was like a normal person kind of milling around the Wayne Manor as well. It would have been a weird contrast, where she's like, "Oh yeah, she's like a normal," or like the Munsters, where like she's the normal one of the family, and then Bruce and Alfred are off doing their gothic, weird, dark stuff in the corner and stuff.
Yeah. I had a question about something actually just immediately preceding Batman almost running down this poor old drag queen. Around 25, 26, we can see one of the cars on the side of the road. It's on the left of the screen that the Batmobile passes. It looks like it's got 3 headlights. There's like 2 headlights on either side, as an automobile normally would. And there's like a 3rd headlight right in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's strange. But then like 2 seconds later, second 27, there's another car with the same configuration that's coming towards the Batmobile with 3 headlights. Like, was that a thing in the 90s?
Apparently it was, I think it was like one of the first, like, I think like the establishing shots of Gotham Plaza at the beginning, we talked about those cars. And I think they're very old fashioned, I think is the idea. Like, I think they were made I can't remember the brand name. But I think they were designed in like the 50s or something as kind of like the car of the future. It's got a headlight in the center and stuff. And then they went out of vogue. But then because they're trying to evoke like an old timey vibe, they brought them back in a major way in this movie. Of like, yeah, they're just everywhere. Everyone loves the center headlight.
I think it's a good idea. I don't see why. The more lights, the better. Surely, come on.
Yeah, I would take a center headlight. That would be awesome. Especially where I live, there's deer all the time that come out on the roads. It would be nice to have an extra headlight.
Oh my God, that's terrifying.
Because this is one of the last minutes we see the intact version of the Anton First Batmobile. Like after this, in the next minute, it does a thing that we'll talk about. And then that's pretty much the last we ever see of it in a cinematic iteration. It gets
au revoir, dear friend.
But it wasn't the last time that this car was seen on screen. And something we've never talked about is the early 2000s Batman OnStar service sponsorship, where there was a series of very high-profile infomercials on American television that featured this Batmobile. Do you guys remember this? Because apparently they were a big deal.
I don't remember. Well,
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if I remember. I don't remember it offhand.
Oh well, the thing is, like because it was between 2000 and 2002 they aired, and it was OnStar is basically like a kind of internet connected road service thing, so you could push a button and then they'd be like, "Oh, this is OnStar. How can I help you?" and stuff. So it was Batman getting into various scrapes where, like, and then he'd have to call OnStar, like, "Oh, they go, the Batmobile will crash and his bat shaped like the bag that what do you call them again? The airbag. Sorry, my God.
Airbag.
But that'd deploy, and all of a sudden you get like, oh, this is OnStar. Are you okay, Batman? Like they'll have a service. And the thing is, they were big budget because they were actually directed by 2 different guys, and apparently OnStar set aside $50 million to create advertisements. It didn't say specifically how much of that went into these ads, but probably quite a bit of it because they're pretty big. One of them was directed. Well, a few of them. I think there's a couple of them, but they had two different directors. One of them was Andrew Davis, who directed Under Siege and The Fugitive. So, big time Hollywood director coming in. And then they got a fellow called Vincent Ward to do other ones, who was one of the writers on Alien 3. He also directed What Dreams May Come. But the thing is, like, one of them opens within the Batcave, and Alfred's talking to Batman, and it's Michael Goff. They've got Michael Goff coming in to be like, yes, sir, I've installed OnStar services onto the Batmobile. If you should get into any trouble, you can just press the button. And Batman, instead of being like, what the hell, Alfred, you can't do that. It's like, oh, thanks, Alfred. But it also featured, because of several different ads with several different characters. So there's a fella who's just kind of a bit part actor called Bruce Thomas, played Batman. And apparently he just was in a suit made of kind of composite old bat suits they had lying around. The just whatever parts fit him. You mostly see his head, so he doesn't look too bad. There's actually a bit of him like swooping down into the Batcave. That actually looks pretty cool. But he's kind of flapping the cape, which looks a bit silly then. But the thing is, because they're going for, throughout the whole thing as well, they've got like the Danny Elfman music is playing, but it's kind of going for the Joel Schumacher aesthetic. So it kind of looks like Schumacher's Gotham with the Burton mobile and the Danny Elfman score. So it's a bit of a hodgepodge. But then they had one of them featured a high-speed chase with the Joker, who was played by Curtis Armstrong, who people would know. He's one of those, oh, that's that guy actors. Most people know him as Booger in Revenge of the Nerds. He was Booster in Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course. He also is Tom Cruise's friend who was going off at the beginning of Risky Business. He's in like Better Off Dead. He's also in Quigley, the Gary Busey talking dog movie that me and John watched one time many years ago.
It was beyond good. It was absolutely
but then you also got Brooke Burns, who of course played Jesse Owens in Baywatch. Not the athlete Jesse Owens, but the... but
that was my first thought.
Yeah, but she played Vicky Vale. So yeah, Jesse from Baywatch played Vicky Vale in the ads. And they had a fellow called Brian Stepanek playing the Riddler, and it's a very blatant, like, just get a guy who looks a bit like Jim Carrey to do a Jim Carrey impression, because he doesn't say much, but he's really gurning it up and stuff, and like he has the Carrey chin, so it's like that's what they're going for. But apparently, like, this thing was so successful that they had like 2 special tie-in comics featuring the Riddler and Mr. Freeze. They had special webisodes about like the ending of the adventures and stuff. And apparently
for a television commercial.
Yeah. And at one point they posted that if you were to go with OnStar, you could get yourself a walk-on part in the next Batman movie. Now consider this is in 2000, and the last Batman movie was Batman and Robin. Like, I'm pretty sure Chris Nolan did not honor that agreement. I'm pretty sure he didn't get like an OnStar customer just wandering about in Batman Begins. So whoever tried to get into that sweepstakes must have been pretty screwed. Like, must have been like, no, I've never seen it because I'm not in it. Why the hell would I watch Batman Begins? I'm supposed to be the star.
That's a perfectly fine attitude.
Yeah, but they even had like trading cards, and it was so successful that apparently OnStar services new accounts jumped 169% because of the ads, and renewals jumped from 32% to 58%.
Wow.
So they considered it was massive win for them. And then they only ran for 2 years. And then they're like, yeah, we're done. We're done with Batman. And they just went back to doing other adverts and stuff. But that was the last you would see. Obviously, you get like featured in Looney Tunes back in action and stuff as well. But like in terms of a prominent role, that's kind of like the next time people would have seen this version of the Batmobile intact and stuff. So yeah, so that's
it's sad. It's sad.
Yeah. I'll make sure to post. You can get all those adverts in one video on YouTube. I'll make sure to post that when this episode airs. And
yes,
stuff.
please.
Yeah, I just while you were talking, I just watched 6 of them. And
what the hell? You're supposed to be paying attention.
I was listening to you. I was watching the videos on silent. I was listening to you.
What's better than watching?
So I was watching them while you were giving me commentary. It was such an immersive experience that I was just having. Yeah, I'm really sad that I don't remember them because I'm sure I had to have seen them on TV at the time, but they're pretty detailed and fun commercials. I do like that they go with the old Penguin. He looks classy instead of gross.
Yeah.
So
there's some kind of notes,
so I like him.
What universe they're supposed to be in. Because, there's the one with the penguin going about in the kind of helicopter thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, so it's not the Vito penguin. It's like the Burgess Meredith penguin. And,
yeah.
But then the next time you see
kind of
the
all
Riddler,
over,
it's like,
but...
no, that's the Jim Carrey Riddler you're doing. That's like, oh, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, but you know why? Basically, just because they were so annoyed at Burton's choices with some of the characters in this film. They're like, we are not putting that on any of the... Well, they didn't do most of the merch for a long time with this penguin, did they? I mean, you can get toys of him now and things, but as we've brought up before, back at the time, it was like, make the toys look like the old penguin.
Yeah. I don't know, it was just old models, like unsold penguin toys from like an old toy line. Like, just repaint them. They get them out. They're fine.
Yeah.
Well, we would have had a bit more of the Batmobile in the original Strick revised draft. And it's something I hate. So I'm glad it's not here. I want less Batmobile if this is what we were going to get. Because there's a scene here where, basically, here we go. The Batmobile, everything's the same. He stops the Batmobile in the same sort of method. But then it says, the steel jack-type device again explodes out of the bottom of the Batmobile, lifting it up off the ground. But instead of going into a simple, suave 180 twist, the car convulses into a Tasmanian devil spin that revolves it at mind-roasting speed. A battalion of police cars surround it. Officers jump out and begin firing. And then it just zooms off.
That does sound very kid movie. Like, I think I've seen... You can imagine them speeding up the footage to make it look like it's going even faster and stuff. And it'll look like...
And put a funny sound on it.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be a bit zany. It'll be like I'm trying to think of a specific example. For some reason, I can imagine like Hulk Hogan and Mr. Nanny spinning around or something like that. Kind of that's a real staple of the early '90s cinema. It's like, wacky spinning.
I could even imagine it in the next two films. To be honest.
But at the same time, though, that would have been like, well, it's a callback to the start, though. So technically, we did set up that the Batmobile could do that.
Yeah,
but less is more, I think.
Yeah. Oh, no, totally.
I love the Penguin as well now. His overreactions when he's trying desperately to regain control of the car. He's bouncing around like a little baby.
And listeners won't know, but this is just the other day I had to completely reformat my laptop because it just kept freezing up and stuff. So this was me just the other day. Just
actual footage of style.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was doing. This is how frustrated I got.
You were just sitting in your little Batmobile that you have at home, just like shaking your laptop where you do your best work.
We both have one of those. That's how we record the show.
The amount of editing we have to take out all the sound effects of just the thing constantly squeaking around.
Well, and Batman as well is getting so frustrated, and he's so frustrated he punches out his own screen in his own car.
Yeah.
that just blew my mind. Like, why?
I don't know.
Maybe it might be at this point he's just kind of like, well, everything in this car is screwed anyway. I'm going to have to go through it and repair everything. So I might as well just break the TV too.
The car is pretty trashed, but he's just doing it because he's angry.
Yeah.
Which, that actually made me think of, obviously, I mean, Niall, one of my favorite bands ever, the Sex Pistols. When they first went on TV, nobody knew what punk was then, so they were on TV. They swore on TV because they were kids. They didn't give a damn. They had been given lots and lots and lots of cheap wine in the green room. So they swore, but apparently this was the 70s in England, so people were so furious at hearing a swear word on the TV that there was this report of a guy who got up and kicked his TV.
Oh, my goodness.
Because he was so angry, he just kicked the screen in like 100 times and blew up.
We find out now that man was actually Alfred Pennyworth. So then when Bruce Wayne tells him about this, he's like, he wasn't swearing, was he, sir? Oh, no. He's swearing up a storm, Alfred. I totally understand then.
I like the way as well, that guy's only harming himself. TVs were not cheap in 1976.
Right. Oh, yeah. I never get the thing like people like. I think we might have mentioned it when like Selena was trashing her flat and stuff. But that is a steadfast rule. It's like anytime I'm ever angry, I never got the impulse to start like throwing things around.
No,
because it's just like, well, I'm going to be the one who pays for that. I'm going to have to replace it. So it's like,
Right.
I did once break a cup that way, and I've always regretted it since because it was a pretty good cup. I'm like, oh, damn it.
Well, and Batman is not going to be able to probably just easily push the eject button to get his CD out now that he's burning.
Oh,
He's
yes.
probably going to have to go all in there with tools to try to get it, see if he can salvage.
Oh God. Well, it's probably a good job it's a CD then and not a cassette, because if he'd smashed it and it was a cassette, it might have like got mangled in the machine.
Very true.
It's like eating the tape. Oh.
Very true.
Maybe we're thinking like when he's doing the kind of stuff with the CD later on. Maybe that's him. Maybe that's a cover where he's like, "Oh no, the CD skips because I busted the TV and stuff while it was burning."
Could
So
be.
like, just to make sure that Alfred doesn't think I'm an idiot, I'm like, "Oh no, you can do this with CDs, yeah, totally."
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry. Oh, but then we get another one of my favorite things: the Penguin's angry, maniacal scream.
Yeah.
It sort of just looks into the camera like, ah!
That's a good bit.
His mouth is so gross.
It's beautiful. What you thought?
Oh.
There's no way. The guy's a guy who was not interested in saving face either. You think someone would just be like, turn it off out of frustration so he doesn't see how angry you've made him? But he is full on. The Batman. I was like, oh, I really, really pissed this guy off.
He's a proto Kylo Ren. He's a
Oh
utilist.
yeah.
Oh.
So it turns out at the end of episode 9, it's just like, oh, the Kylo Ren's actual parents were Oswald Cobblepot and Princess Leia.
It's a twist. Yeah, Rey was actually the Solo. But the strict draft comes into play here again, as it often does in these minutes. Because the Penguin has a rather interesting line. He just starts... Because, the strict draft is far too wordy.
It's just the way, though, you said, like, as
well,
it
both
often
the
does
drafts,
in these minutes. Like, what, you mean like a couple of seconds ago? When you just, within this minute, yes, it has come up twice now.
But specifically the strict revised draft, even more than the Waters one, because it's hard to compare that. But the Penguin says, came this close to a perfect evening. Iced the princess, blew away Batman, almost got married, killed the bitch. This close. It's like, whoa.
But yeah, with the bat fist of fury punching the screen. And that's kind of pretty much the end of this minute, really. You guys have anything else you want to talk about in this minute in particular?
No, but if I had that much anger, I'd be ripping those wires out that keep hanging in front of my face while I'm trying to drive the entire time.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Oh, that would drive me crazy, yes.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hate anything in my vision like that. I can't put it with.
Yeah. It just like it even still has part of that control box or whatever it was like hanging on it. He could easily just rip that out.
Yeah.
And it just still hangs there. It drives me nuts.
Plus, you might get a little shock off it. That's horrible.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's like Tabitha never had an emo phase. She never had the emo fringe to dangling down over her. That always annoyed. I never had that either. But it always annoyed me seeing it. It's like, aren't these people really irritated? You just can't see past one eye. Like, what's going on?
Right. No, it drives me nuts if I even have like one strand that wants to hang down in front of my eyes. I'm like, get out of here. Tons of hairspray. Shh, get off the side.
Like, I remember way back in like the height of that, like about 2006 or 2007. I remember seeing an emo kid who had the fringe down over both eyes. And I was
Oh,
like,
goodness.
what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
It was like a multicolored fringe visor going on, like emo RoboCop or something. But yeah, I'm ready to wrap this one up. If you guys are.
Yeah, we've covered my notes. Yeah.
We will depart once more. Well, would you like to tell our listeners once again where they can find your wonderful voices elsewhere on those interwebs?
Well, sure. You can find me. I did a little thing with wonderful co-host Dave Palace. We did Groundhog Minute, where we covered the movie Groundhog Day 1 minute at a time. You can find that at groundhogminute.com. And before that, I had another wonderful co-host, Heidi Bennett. And we did This is Spinal Tap 1 minute at a time. And you can find that at spinaltapminute.com.
Yes, and you can find me guesting on Sean's podcast, Groundhog Minute. My husband Jonathan and I were guests on theirs. And also on his co-host Dave Pallas' podcast, 5 Minutes of Mystery, where they talk about mystery men. I was a guest on there recently.
Do check those out, everyone, because they're all great shows. Do that in the meantime. And then join us again on Friday, because we'll be back with more Batman Returns.
Next time, squeeze me. In continuing its caped escape from the city police, the Batmobile is stripped of its full metal fleece. But while he screeches through the back streets with the greatest of ease, which sinister sleaze is preparing to postulate more of his political disease? Find out Friday. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.